yeah, so we will talk about REST, and also we will wrap up our server. We will wrap up talking about Express. And tomorrow we will introduce the new assignment, which we will ask you to build a Node Express server. So here's my server. Just a quick recap of what we have done. So this is root, and this is about page. And then we have two middlewares. We have the Express static middleware and the JSON. If you, as you remember, the Express static allow us to access static files, allow the server to handle static requests, and Express JSON allows the server to interpret and understand JSON data type. I have also set the view engine, which is embedded JavaScript, EJS template engine. The engine allow me to write JavaScript inside HTML, so I could have dynamic HTML pages. I use those in the root and the about page by defining title and content, then sending to the server, sending to the client. If the client sent request for root, a get for the root, then I will send back template.ejs. I'll pass the data. So I could have different data based on the root, based on the URL, sorry. And then here the server is listening. And this is basically it. Now what I will do is I will add routes. Let's see how we can add define routes and use the Express router. I think we had this yesterday, but we can do it today one more time. So we just define a new folder, and then inside that, okay, let's say I have items.js, and inside items.js, I want to define like a route, which is items. So Express routers route any request to items into like the endpoints that I'm gonna write in this file. But if the routes are of this type, if like the request is slash, or if the request is about, then the router would not pass through items, will not pick up items. So yeah, it will just go to the corresponding route URL here. Okay, so if I want to move my routes into like a routes folder, and if I want to organize my code using the Express router, then I just basically start with a new items.js or the URL name. This is up to you what you want to call this, but it's good practice to call it according to the endpoint or the resource name. And I add Express. And then I get my router using express.router. As simple as that, I can have a router. Then in the future, we will have the database model here. We will connect databases or database here. But for now, let's say I'm saving the database locally in an array of objects, and each contains an ID and a name. Oh, this should be an array. Similarly, I'll have, let's say, 2, 3 items. Item 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. Just as an example to see how this would work. And then I use Express JSON. So for post, as you remember from yesterday, it's the convention to use JSON when you send data. Let me just open Postman. Let's see if my server is running well before I continue. Okay, I defined the port in .env3007. And I have a route message sent to client. If I open review, I will have the page, and then if I click on about, I will have my about page. And now instead of that, I want to have a resource called items, and then to add a new item or delete a certain item or get all the items. So get all the items like this, add all the items maybe like this, and then delete a certain item like this. So I can do that by yeah, I just say router dot use. We can leave this till the post. Now I can define my routes like this. Yet again, you have seen this before, but we're just recapping on Express JSON. Sorry, Node Express. And I can have a try catch, and I can do an if condition. So I can say if, okay, this is the error, but here I can say if the condition is if items dot length is something. So if there is any item, then let's bring it. Let's send it back to the client. If there's anything in the array, or if there is at least, let's say, one item, then send everything to the client. Other than that, then you can just tell the client that there is nothing. So you can we discussed this yesterday. You can do response.status then .send, or you can say send status, which is basically just send the status. And because it's a protocol, so this is understood as, okay, this is not found. Or you can send a JSON file, but in our case, we are not sending any data, so we can just send the status with 404, and that's enough. As for the error, we can just console the error just to make sure that we're capturing any errors occurring the send request cycle. So error retrieving items. So this is the get, and as you can see, this is inside routes items. So I can go to server.js and I can say, okay, here I'm using .env. I'm then defining the express application. Then I can get items router equal require, and then I can just define the path. Now, so I have the items router, and yeah, I can use that. I can just define a use. So I can just say app.use, then define the endpoint items, and then after that items router. So this means that if you receive anything on this endpoint, then this will handle it. Then go to this place, and that route is where we handle anything related to this resource. So for now, I've just defined items. Okay, we have an error. Um, this is basically the route. Which is routes items. This is, instead of writing all the routes here, I can just use Express Router and write them in different files. And I can do so using this, but okay. Is it? I'm not sure. Is it because we're not using express.json here? Um, I don't think so. Oh, yeah. We should export that. I think it's audio export, then router, something like this, or export audio. Export module. No. Module that exports, sorry. Equal router. So this is how we define express routers, yeah. Okay, now server is running and I can now ask for items. Okay, I decide I set that as delete. Let's do it with get. as you can see, I received the whole thing. I receive it in even an array manner like this. So yeah, as you can see, this is the server again. This is the, let's say this is the main routes, which is this route, then the root route, then the about route, then we have the items. And from yesterday, you learned that, okay, it's in the morning, you learned about middlewares. So let's talk a bit about middlewares. Now, middlewares is any software or sorry, any function in the backend that has access to request and the response, and that works between the request and the response cycle. And from the morning, you've seen like diagrams where there is actually, why I just not open that? Okay, let's look at this diagram. So when we receive, when the request is coming to the server, then we have different middlewares, different type of middlewares that we define. And our request pass through these middlewares one by one. So the middleware, each of the middlewares should either return something or pass the request to the next middleware. So technically speaking, these are middlewares. Even the routes like app.get is a middleware, technically speaking. But usually they call this endpoints because this returns something. It's returned back something to the user, and just, in the request is coming from top, let's say, and passing through all the middlewares until the end. So those technically are, as you can see, they have access to request and response, and they do something in between. So technically they are middlewares, but since they have a route here and they do something, so they call them endpoints. While those app.use, for instance, express.static, express.json, those are middlewares. They're not endpoints. And those are defined by Express itself. So we have different types of middlewares. We have middlewares that we write by ourselves. We have middlewares that is defined from Express, like those. And those, of course, by default, what they do is they provide us, for instance, this one. It provides us with access to the static, to static data under public here. And it also has a next at the end. So if you, I don't know if it appears here, but what it do is it works like this. These are endpoints, and these are, let's say, middlewares. So the middlewares, they can either return something back and just exit, or they can just, pass the request to the next middleware. So the ones from Express, they do this. They pass the request from here until the next one, then the next one, and so on. So we have different types. Again, we have those who are built by us. There isn't any at the moment. There is also those are built by Express, provided by Express. There is those that you put on the application level, like those. So those are on the application level, as you can see, app.set, app.use, app.get, those on the application level. But what you can do is you can add a middleware here on the route level. You can do express.json. So what you're doing here is you are applying this to the root and to this route, sorry. And this works only if the request is coming to this route. So if the request is coming to this route, I defined a middleware for on the route level, sorry, and then this only applies to that route. One meaningful one would be, I think, text. So returns middleware that passes all bodies as a string. So if you want to return something as a string, you can do like this. Now I'm sending back template.js, but now it's going to be sent back as a string rather than an HTML. Let's see that in action. Um, sorry, this would work if you send something as a text. Yeah, something like this. If you send, for instance, hi here, or let's say if you send, this is a request to the root, and you say you want to send this as a text, you can have that, for instance, in the content. If you, instead of the content here, you can just type rec.body, and since you have text and you send it as text, then that should work. This is a request to the root, as you can see. Now, if you don't have this middleware, we would have an error. Object. It's not an error, but it's not understandable. It's because it passed through the JSON, express.json middleware, but we sent text, and that's why we apply express.text here to send, yeah, and anything we want to display as a text. Yeah, so those are the type of middlewares, and also there is, you can say, third-party middlewares. So those are provided by the community, and I think in the assignment tomorrow we will ask you to use one of those. Yeah. Okay, so this is it about middleware. So now it's not only about where, I mean, what middlewares do you use, but also where do you put these middlewares and how you order the middlewares. That's also counts, or that's also we should like pay attention to, because let's say, um okay, we will visit this towards the end, because we only have two middlewares. Maybe we can write middlewares ourselves. In the morning, did you write any middlewares? Did Alim like write any middlewares? If anyone remembers. Okay. Yeah, we can do this. All right. So I have the items here. I have get. I can define post. Let's say I want to add a new item. Then I can say, okay, add, for instance, then request. By catch, and then I define a new item. And the item is coming from the request. Imagine there's a form. The user is filling up a form. So we just, yeah, constant new item, assign it to requirement dot body. Oh, yeah, cool then. And then, yeah, maybe we can write one or two then. Okay, so I have the item, and let's say I'm having the items look like this: ID and name. So the ID could be passed by the from the front end, but I think it's better to have the IDs generated on the back end. So we can just say new item dot ID, and it equals um, we can use one of the libraries, generate ID node. Yeah, this one I've used this before. It generates, yeah, here for instance, we can generate a length of 32, and we don't need to use letters if we want. npm install. So we define a new ID, and then it should be only numbers, and we can make that a number like this. And now the item is ready. We can send it back with status 201, which means an item is created, and we can send back the item as well with JSON as a JSON file, or we can send it back like this. Now this is the try, and we can console.log error adding a new item. And for the client, we can send status of 500, which is internal server error. Okay, let's try that out. So we post, and then we go to items and add, and it's I'm expecting a JSON. So I should add this here, then JSON here, and I just add item name. Okay, it's only name. And we are good to go. So we send that. The server isn't running. Okay, it didn't work. I think I need this. Okay, the item is added, and this is the ID. And if I want to see all the items now, I can just send a get. Okay, I didn't add the item to items, so I should do push. Okay, now I have all the four stored in items. Now, as you can see, this is not like storing the items like this um is not helpful because it's only for this session. And if I stop the server, then everything is yeah, restart from the beginning. So we will see how databases are the solution for a big amount of data and for having data persistent and yeah, store them in a secure location, a centralized and secure location. Now I can do the delete at the end with okay, so the delete, we should have the route is items, and then after that we should have a parameter passed with the router. So the parameter is basically a value, a variable value. We can do this by, as you know, doing this. And now what should I do is first get the ID. So I'm passing an integer in the URL. I can get that with pass integer, and the request has the parameters, and I want the ID. And now what I need to do is search for the ID. If it's in the items, then we can delete. So try catch and then index. ID, right? And I have the index, so I can do a check if index is there, or if, yeah, if it's more than 0, then it should be there. Okay, how this works. Yeah, so it returns an index, so it should be, it could return a 0 then. Yeah, it returns -1 otherwise. So if it doesn't equal otherwise, it doesn't equal -1, and I can do remove. So we can do filter or we can do splice. Splice is a bit weird, but I find it like easy. So splice, it goes to this index and remove this number of items. So yeah, after I remove that, I can just say we can send a status of 204, which means no content, I guess. 404 not found, 200 is okay, 204 no content, I guess, yeah. And else 404. So if there is no item to delete, we can send 04, 0404. And if there's an error, we can just capture that and log that as well. Internal server error. So I have the delete, and let's say I want to delete the new item. So I copy that beard ID and add it here as a value and then delete, and I don't need anybody, then I send, and I have not found, which means the item has been deleted. Okay, 404, not found. Then the item, no, we didn't delete the item. We couldn't find the item. Yeah. So maybe the ID is the issue. Let's delete the first one. Okay, no content. So we deleted this, but we couldn't delete. Oh, yeah, it's deleted. The fourth is deleted. I think this is not the best solution to do this. Or maybe we don't need a length. Just don't use letters. Okay. So now I have 4 items. I can copy and delete. Okay, now it's working. All right, so this is how you find a route. All the routes to items, you define the route here, and all that is handled here. So you don't have one server page that is crowded with you know, a lot of routes. And yeah, now we can come to the middlewares. So for the middlewares, okay, maybe before that. So let's talk a bit about REST. I think you have heard a lot, REST APIs everywhere. Everyone talks about REST APIs. So what is REST APIs? So REST is an architecture for um, building APIs. So it's basically a set of rules or a set of um, constraints, let's say, or a way to define APIs. So with that, you can ensure a certain behavior of the, you know, of the request and response cycle. So it's kind of a protocol, but it's not a protocol, because there is a protocol means everyone agrees on that and it's a standard. But REST APIs, I think, didn't reach a protocol level yet, but it's you can say that like it's the most popular architecture to my knowledge for building APIs. And it's actually, it was a PhD thesis, PhD dissertation, um yeah, by Roy Fielding, and he introduced this architecture. And yeah, it's basically a set of constraints to build APIs in order to have like a quality, let's say, HTTP request and response cycle. So many job posts, they would say REST APIs, but I think they don't mean like strict constraints that is provided, the technical that's provided technically here. Rather, what they mean is like the general idea of REST API. So it's good to know about those. I thought it's good to know when someone says REST APIs. So just keep in mind, what does that mean? So the principles is that um, it's based on the client server architecture. So there's a client, there is a computer works as a client like this, and a server, and another computer or another software working as a server. So we have server client architecture. The other architectures are like peer-to-peer. If anyone is interested, there's peer-to-peer architecture where um, the same computer could be a client or could be a server. So usually this is like those two are the most popular way of interacting with the web. Basically, we are most likely we are doing the first one, which is we are clients and we send back, and we send requests to server, and it send us back responses. And the second thing is that statelessness, they call it. So there's no like there's no connection between let's say get items and let's say get items add, for instance, post. So um each send and request is like independent. There's no connection between the like different cycles. So there's no state, let's say, to maintain in the connection. Just send something, send something, receive back something. Also, like RESTful APIs, or let's say services, should have a uniform interface. Usually it's this. This is the uniform interface, which is the HTTP requests. So we use get, post, put, patch, and delete. And there is this term that they call CRUD, if you heard about this. Um, CRUD. So yeah, companies when I'm not quite sure about this, but I think if you look at a post at like if someone say REST API, they like most of the time, or a big percentage of what they mean is create this CRUD thing. Exactly. Thank you, Novita. Create, read, update, and delete. So we have done this many times. We create with post, we read with get, we delete with delete, and then we update with put and patch. And find, and also resources. So each endpoint, or each yeah, we can say resource, each resource should be accessed with a unique URL. So if you go to /items, then you can access anything after that, any endpoints that you define under that, items, something else. But if you go to users, then this is unique for the user resources, and so on. Also, you can have multiple representation of your requests. So which means you basically you can just send different type of data. There's no restriction on the type of data. So this is just those are more than 5. If you go to content type of the HTTP, there is, I think, more than 20, 30 types. So yeah, there's no restriction on the data. So this is REST. If you hear or if you encounter this word any day, then this is what they mean by REST. Now let's go back to our code and see what else we can do here. Okay, I think we can take a break for 5 minutes, and then we can just wrap up with maybe adding middlewares and organizing our final code. All right. So yeah, finally we can um, refine, let's say, our middlewares. We can add middlewares and we can organize the current middlewares. Um, is there a question or okay? Yeah, I thought I saw someone raising their hand, but anyway, so we can yeah, we can define just a folder called middlewares and or we can maybe have something like utilities, and inside that we can have middlewares. Or okay, let's keep it inside utilities, and the file could be called middlewares. And so the middlewares again, they are functions, and they have access to request, response, and if we are defining them by ourselves, then we need the next statement. So in order to make, especially if the middleware isn't responding something to the client, so the it should pass the request to the next middleware. So if you're writing a middleware by yourself, then you need to type next at the end or send something to the client. So this is a logger middleware, and logging in the backend is essential because as you can see, the server is running and listening. This is always the case, 24 hours, the server is running and listening, and it should serve clients, serve requests. And for that, we need to know what happened and at what time. So usually it's not only logged, but also saved in a file. Um, for now, we will just console log, but yeah, usually it's also logged or saved, and you can come back to them when you want. So we can say, maybe Alim already talked about this, but yeah, we can revisit. So we can access the request and we can say incoming request. And yeah, we can, from that, we can see, um, we can access the HTTP request. It contains everything. It contains the status, the method, and so on. So you can access the method. You can say, okay, I received a request. What type is it? Then request method send to um, localhost 3007, and then we can say request.url, and you can say at time. So time, we can just I'm not sure if we have it here, like date time now. Let's see JavaScript first. Date.now. Um, yeah, this is different. Here we can use Node. Some frameworks, they just have one function. You can just type date time now. Um, I'm not sure in npm do we have. Yeah, we can do something like this. So a npm install date and time. And to use import date, or we are using CommonJS. Both would work, but since we are using require, then we can just do that. And we need now, and we can define a format like this, for instance. Date.format now, then does it return anything back? Okay, we can test that at now. So this is our logger, and then after that we can just pass next. So now you can know what happened and at what time. And so we export this as a module. So you'll have more than one, so we can do like this. And yeah, we can have that imported in server. Now we can just say apt-use, and here comes the organization of my middlewares. So I want to log anything related to my endpoints. So I add this at the top and my items here, because those are the most important, let's say. Theoretically, we have the root, then we have about, then we have items, but I want to log everything. If I added this, let's say here, then I will log only the first two. Let's see that in action. Let's say I added this in between and my server is running. And let's say I went for the root with a get and nothing in the body, and I send that. I have message sent to client, but I didn't log anything. So instead of logging with console log now here, I can remove that. And I can add my middleware at the top. Now, as you can see, incoming request get sent to localhost to the root at Thursday, January 11th, Pacific Standard Time, with, yeah, like a full time and location and everything is logged. So as you can see, again, the server is open, but it logs everything. Here, I don't need this. So this is the logger, and then I can have I can have three um, three middlewares to handle errors, let's say. I can log errors, I can respond to errors, and then I can have like a default, let's say, unknown. So in order to not like make the server break, let's say, or make the client hanging, we can at the end we can just say if anything else for some reason someone wrote about like this, now what's going to happen is cannot get, and it's the user is going to see error, but we can make it 404. We can have a customized message for that. So let's do that. So the error logger has access to the error, and this is the error that is catched with here with the try catch. This is the error. And then I type next, and I pass the error to the next middleware as well. I can do that. Export that. Then I can do constant error respond. And the difference between this does not only log, but it also respond to the user directly. It tells the user what happened. Um, okay, so okay, so if I have the error, I catch the error and then send it back to the client. This is the behavior. So I define the status, or I can just send the status. So I can send the status, and I can send send a message as well after that, which is the message of of the error. Um, okay, and finally I can add constant like not found error, which is this error related to this is not cached, rather this is an endpoint that is okay, not found, not found error, endpoint not found, yeah. So yeah, this is not related to the code error, and I think I don't need next either here, because this is this needs to be towards the end. And I just said send back maybe 404 with a message that page not found, for instance. Okay, so I now have the 4. I can use those now here, and they should be towards the end. So I need request to pass through the logger every time, but when there is an issue, I want to log that. Then maybe respond to that. And finally, this is the last resort, the last station of our request. If nothing if nothing catch the request during all this journey from the top to the bottom, then at the endpoint is just sent back not found. There's nothing match what you've sent, and yeah, the user would be informed. So instead of having cannot get about like this, we will just say page not found. Okay, for errors, so how we can emulate an error to see that in action. Let's say we tried to post. Now, if I clicked on this even, page not found, but if I added and let's say I sent text. Okay, it's also page not found. Oh, it should be items. It defined, okay. I had the endpoint, it doesn't like request to the user to send something, so they didn't interpret the name dash name because it should be sent as JSON, but I send it as a text. Okay, we can take a look at the items now. If that was added, I think it was added, yeah, but without the names, so that's not even an error. Okay, let's try this. Okay, page not found. So yeah, that would I don't know how we can emulate the error, but we are catching errors. We are logging that as well. And we have our logger here. Just keep telling us what is happening. You can make sure that your server is running, responding, and waiting for client requests. Okay, is there any questions? Or anything we can reiterate or look at?
So Yaman, you did the error logger and the error respond. So why don't we put it together? Because for any error logging, there has to be an error response.
Yes, you are correct.
And we are using the next in the first one, the logger, but not in the respond. So I thought that whenever we are calling what's this, the middleware in the middle, we need to release it, right, with the next.
Yeah, so we are releasing this, but we are sending back something on this. So
But there's
yeah,
no next in the error respond.
sorry.
There is no next in the error respond.
Yes, so we either next or we either send back something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's either this or send. But
Okay.
since yeah, we're doing next here, we're doing send here. That's why I have them in two separate middlewares. But yeah, we can
So we don't need to send the next in the error respond, right?
yes, we don't. But yeah, we can have them in the same middleware. Yes, that is possible. Because I'm not sure of a case where we console log the error, but the error is empty for some reason, and we don't have anything to return. So we will just reach here and return status 404.
Mhm.
Page not found. So it might be like there's page not found and there's error in the way, but the error is actually, if we quote an error, that then it's gonna be an error. So yeah, as you said, we can have them. We can have those like one. Yeah. Okay, now this is Node Express server. As you maybe noticed, it's not difficult to do so, to build a server. And behind these functions, there is plenty and hundreds of other functions to make this work in just, it's just small amount of code. So tomorrow we will introduce the assignment for this. For the week, we will ask you to build a server, and we will also ask you to use a third-party middleware. So this is not a middleware provided by Express, and it's not a middleware that we write by ourselves. It's a kind of node, like the node libraries, for instance, something similar. And yeah, just to take a look, just to make you practice this, write this by yourselves and do the modifications and the customization that you would like. And yeah, I think that's wrap up the Node Express server. Is there any other questions? All right, so we can stop now. And at 3 today, we have a presentation, I think. All right, if one or if any of the people presenting today, if they can confirm at 3. And yeah, so we will have the presentation at 3, and then we will open breakout rooms as usual. And till then, if you had any questions at the time, yeah, you can let us know, and we are happy to help. All right, let's stop for now. And at 3, let's have the presentation for today.